So how do Aries get on with other Aries? Well, this is a couple who never go to the same place more than twice, the second time to apologize. Sorry, Aries, but I've got another quote for you. I'll be there for you. These 5 words I swear to you. When you breathe, I want to be the air for you. I'll be there for you. A little bit of Bon Jovi inspiration for our Aries couple, because I feel that despite the obstacles, the fire, the fallouts, and the passion, this can be a couple who are good to go, good to last, a couple who generate a lot of momentum, but it's not always easy in the beginning. Talking about in the beginning, the Aries and Aries don't usually gravitate to each other in normal circumstances. The way they're going to meet is probably to be introduced or through a family friend, or maybe they go to some family gathering, there's someone there and says, hey, have you met so-and-so? And that's when they kind of get talking, they click, they're rather curious about each other, and suddenly they're dating. They're going out, they're the talk of the town, and then there's the bust up, they're not talking, there's tears, there's what we call in South Africa snot and trana, and it all seems to be falling apart, but suddenly they're back together and they're engaged, and everyone is mystified. So what do we know about these two together? They are fiery. There's a lot of energy in this partnership. There's a great desire to find out more about each other. Now, when they do eventually get into a relationship, it is busy and they start an awful lot of things and don't always finish them. So this is a couple that are great at initiating, but you find that they jump from one phase of life into another, from one mess, from one kind of misadventure into another, or sometimes they just roll on from success to success, having multiple experiences, but they kind of often burn each other out, which is one of the dangers in this relationship. Now, one of the problems is they're both secretly possessive. They both need to really deeply understand and connect with the other, but they also have strong freedom needs. So that needs to be balanced in this relationship. Particularly the woman Aries needs to have a space in life where she controls things, she manages things, and she has her own identity, because her identity cannot be totally tied to her partner Aries. Aries guy has to respect that, but sometimes he gets a little bit jealous when she's having a lot of success in her life. So both of them have to manage this jealousy. And if Aries woman plays her cards right, it's going to be a successful relationship, especially sexually. But what does she have to do? She has to stoke his ego. She has to encourage his masculinity. She has to show that he's her man. She's proud to be with him. She loves to call him her husband. And sometimes she has to play the domestic goddess, right? Now, I know for Aries, that's not necessarily a difficult thing for you, because you can do a good old whip round the housework and nail it. But it is kind of important in a relationship that he sometimes sees you fulfilling those feminine roles, because he's very attracted to that, keeps him interested in the relationship, and it can mean he rewards you sexually. Now, what you both have to understand about each other is you can sometimes be a little bit immature in the way you handle emotions. Often, your go-to way of reacting is to attack a situation, to either be aggressive, confrontational, or to just throw too much energy into a situation. So what you both have to learn is to think first. You both tend to dive in the deep end or go in with both feet, and the more you can both learn to restrain each other, to think first, and to act in a more systematic way, the better this relationship is going to be. Now, one of the key planks of this relationship is honesty. You both tend to be open with each other. Now, Aries, terrible keeping secrets from each other. So I don't think you have to worry too much about trust issues, because if there's anything going on, one of you will suss it out, because you're both terrible liars. And you kind of like to get things off your chest. So for both Arieses, you won't drift along in the relationship long holding back. That'll last maybe a few days before you get things off your chest. And so there's a refreshing air to this relationship. Now, one of the problems, however, I must mention, when you have two people of the same star sign, is there can be unrequited love. So often in the initial phases, which as I mentioned can be difficult with this combination, one is more keen than the other. One does a lot more of the running, a lot more of the work, and one can be a little bit indifferent or a little bit of a commitment phobe. But if you can get beyond that, if you can both kind of persist or work through a friends with benefits stage, you can reach a stage where it levels out and both of you are just as interested in the relationship. The other interesting thing about Aries with Aries, there will be distinct phases. Sometimes the woman, if it's a male-woman relationship, has more power. Other phases, the man has more power. So there's always a balancing going on. You don't always tend to be at your most powerful at the same time, right? There's ebbs and flows, and sometimes one is playing the masculine role and the other is playing a more feminine role. And it's that interplay can be very, very positive in the relationship. Not always comfortable for Aries man when he's playing the feminine role, but he can actually adapt to that. Now, this couple does work as a team, but you guys work best when you have a mutual threat that you need to attack. So sometimes, it's a little bit toxic, but if one of you has an ex who is troublesome and you're both sort of teaming up to fight the ex, that can work quite well in gelling you together. Or alternatively, if you have got some major problem, like a financial problem, business problem that you're tackling together, that unites you. So adversity on the outside brings this couple together. So there's a kind of siege mentality there. When you work strongly together, you unite and you're very good at confronting targets. Now, the biggest problem for Aries and Aries together is times when you're in the doldrums. Periods in life where not a lot is happening, where there's a bit of a downturn, where things are stale, because your naturally energetic, go-getting, inspiring personalities can turn into frustration, anger, and you can end up getting into a lot of quarrels, debates, which most of them are needless and unproductive. And it's very important to always say, what are we doing here? Let's regain our focus. This is also a couple that work best when you are kind of in the lead. You are both front runners. Sometimes if you both get too far behind the curve, say you both get into a rut and maybe you're doing something negative together. You're both eating too much, drinking too much procrastination. Say you're both really in a hole. That's the biggest danger for this couple. Because as I say, you're good front runners. When you're being a success, you pile success upon success. But when you're both down and out, there can be one big, fat, never-ending pity party that's hard to escape from. And that's when you need to tap into the deep resilience you have and use mutual friends to help you get out of it. This couple thrives when you both have strong friendships with other couples and you're very sociable. You enjoy being sociable together and you love entertaining. Now, this is also a couple that must have family. It's very important for you to have children, lots of grandchildren, or even if you don't have children, it's vital that you interact with both the older members of the family, the patriarchs and the matriarchs, because Aries rely on the older members for stability and advice. So it's really good to have that interaction with the older members, but also the younger members, because you have that eternally youthful spirit. So you do need children in your life, either your own or some nieces and nephews that you can have fun with, interact with, and express and blow off steam of that youthful energy. Now, very often, two Aries together, there's a kind of spiritual link. It can make the relationship feel deeply rewarding despite the ups and downs. And there are sometimes very big ups and downs in the Aries-Aries relationship. It can be quite a beautiful journey, though, together spiritually, where you grow stronger, where you transform each other, and you're more rewarded. Always come back to teamwork and honesty. Those are the glue that sticks the relationship together. And understanding but sometimes one is up, one is down, or one is having success and the other one's playing a supportive role, but it always swings in roundabouts. It's never stagnant. So always love each other, support each other, be warm and open-hearted, maintain the enthusiasm, show each other appreciation. Aries lady, show him that you love and adore him. He's the best thing ever. You appreciate him both sexually and in terms of his masculine traits. And Aries man, show your Aries lady that you really understand the way she stood by you. She stood up for you and you think that she's the greatest thing ever and streets ahead of the rest. In this relationship, looks don't necessarily count. It's all about the energy that you feel when you're together and a sense of purpose that kind of burns so strongly in this relationship. Okay, how did you like that? Aries and Aries? I think this is a pretty good one.